Hey guys, today we're going to talk about notes 473. Okay. So we're going to use the quadratic formula to solve quadratic equations. So this is a formula that works just like other formulas. In geometry, you learned formulas for finding area, volume, perimeter. And basically, every formula works the same. You have different parts that you take and you plug into the formula and you get an answer. The quadratic formula works much the same, okay? So first we need to make sure that our quadratic equation is in standard form, okay? Standard form, that's the form you see here. Ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0, where a, b, and c are all numbers. A is always the number in front of x squared. B is always the number in front of x. C is a number that doesn't have a variable attached to it. And all of those terms need to be on one side, set equal to 0. Okay, and here is the formula. Hopefully the quadratic formula looks familiar. Negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2 times a. Okay, so the best way to get good at the quadratic formula is practice, practice, practice. Okay, so here's our first example. It says solve 3x squared plus x minus 2 equals 0. So I definitely would suggest for you guys to first identify what your values are for a, b, and c. Okay, a is 3, b is 1, even though you don't see a number there, it's understood to be 1, and c is negative 2. Okay, so let's plug it in. So b goes here. Notice how I have it nice and set up for you. We'll do that for a little while to get you used to using it. Okay, then still b squared, 4 times a, which is 3. C is negative 2. 2 times a is 3. Okay, so when working this, these are kind of the steps that I would suggest. All right, do your a squared and then your 3 numbers. Okay, so I'm going to come down here and I'm going to say x is negative 1 plus or minus, well, 1 squared is 1. 4 times 3 times negative 2 is a negative 24. So think about it. We have minus a negative, that would become plus 24 all over 2 times 3, which is 6. Okay. Now, I'm going to do 1 plus 24. Okay. I'm going to come up here. X equals negative 1 plus or minus square root of 25 all over 6. Okay. And so we have the square root of 25 is 5. So we have negative 1 plus or minus 5 over 6. So that plus or minus means that there's 2 answers. Okay, so when you have a square root, you always have 2 answers. You have a positive square root and you have a negative square root. Okay, so remember that. We're always going to have 2 answers, especially when it's a quadratic, so we can get 2 answers. So I want to set it up that way. So I get negative 1 plus 5 over 6 is one of my answers. I get negative 1 minus 5 over 6 is another answer. Okay, so negative 1 plus 5, okay, is 4 over 6, which is 2/3. And then negative 1 minus 5 is negative 6 over 6 is negative 1. Okay, so our 2 answers are x is equal to 2/3 and x is also equal to negative 1. So those are our answers. Okay, all right, let's go ahead and look at number 2. 2x squared minus 3x minus 2 equals 0. Okay, same thing. Identify what your values are. Okay, a is 2, b is negative 3, c is negative 2. Okay, so plug in negative b squared, so make sure you plug it in as negative 3. Negative 3 here, a is 2, c is negative 2, 2 times a is 2. Okay, then again, I like to square my first number. You can simplify this. Negative times a negative 3 is a positive 3. Square root. Negative 3 squared is positive 9. Look here, we're going to have minus a negative again, plus 4 times 2 times 2 is 16. And then 2 times 2 is 4. Okay. X is, I'm going to simplify the numbers underneath the square root, plus or minus square root 25. I'm going to come up here. I'm going to say 3 plus or minus 5 over 4. So we're going to get 2 answers. All right. I'm going to have 3 plus 5 over 4. And then I'm going to have 3 minus 5 over 4. 3 plus 5 is 8. 8 over 4 is 2. 3 minus 5 is negative 2. And negative 2 over 4 is negative 1/2. So x is equal to 2 and negative 1/2. 2 answers. 2 answers. Okay. And remember what that means. Okay. Remember what that means. This is a quadratic. If we were to graph it, it's a parabola. So it would cross the x-axis at 2, and it would cross at negative 1/2. And since it's a positive, we know that that parabola would be facing up and would have x-intercepts or roots at positive 2 and also negative 1/2. Okay. All right. What I want you to do is I want you to pause the video and try number 3. Okay. So hit pause now, do number 3, and then hit play and see how you did. All right, let's see how you guys did. So x squared plus 5x minus 6 equals 0. A is 1, B is 5, C is negative 6. I'm going to plug in my values. B is 5, A 1, C negative 6. 2 times A is 1. Okay, then I'm going to simplify. Negative 5 plus or minus 5 squared is 25. Again, we've got minus a negative, that's plus 24 over 2. Okay, I'll come up here. X equals negative 5 plus or minus the square root of 49 over 2. Square root of 49 is 7. So we've got negative 5 plus or minus 7 over 2. So here's where I get my two equations, or two solutions. Negative 5 plus 7 over 2 and negative 5 minus 7 over 2. Negative 5 plus 7 is a positive 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. Negative 5 minus 7 is negative 12. Negative 12 divided by 2 is a negative 6. So we get two solutions of x equals 1 and negative 6. Again, that is where it crosses the x-axis. Okay. All right, we're going to look at one more. It says solve x squared minus 10x plus 24 equals 0. So notice the difference here. I did not give you blanks to fill in. This is what we want to ultimately get to. We want to get to the point where you can do the quadratic formula without blanks, all right? So one thing I like to do is write it. Okay, x is negative b plus or minus square root b squared minus 4 times a times c all over 2a. Okay, Again, I would suggest write out what your values are. What's A? What's B? What's C? Okay, A is 1. B is negative 10. C's 24. Okay, and then let's plug them in. X equals negative B, so negative 10 plus or minus negative 10 squared minus 4 times 1 times 24 all over 2 times 1. So let's start simplifying. Negative times a negative gives me a positive 10. 10 squared, or negative 10 squared, is 100. 4 times 1 times 24 is 96. And 2 times 1 is 2. And I'm going to simplify what is underneath the square root. 100 minus 96 is 4. Okay. And that gives me 10 plus or minus 2 over 2. Square root of 4 is 2. So my two solutions will come from x is 10 plus 2 over 2 and 10 minus 2 over 2. 10 plus 2 is 12. 12 divided by 2 is 6. 10 minus 2 is 8, and 8 divided by 2 is 4. So we get two solutions. X is equal to 6, and x is also equal to 4. And again, if you were to look at this, crosses the x-axis at 4 and 6, it's a positive parabola. It faces up. You can plug this into y equals y1 in your calculator, graph it, and you should get a graph that looks very similar to this one. Okay, so I hope that makes sense, and see you guys next